We configured the most powerful AI models to create the personas of 5 former presidents of the US, and then asked them to confront the most divisive and consequential struggles facing the country today. And it begins with this question. Thousands of migrants have died attempting to cross into the US in recent years, while millions more have entered, leaving some American cities struggling to accommodate them. As president, when compassion for desperate outsiders collides with national security and citizen consent, whose claim comes first, and who must bear the suffering?
My fellow Americans, a nation that cannot control its borders is not truly sovereign. The first duty of the president is not to the world, but to the citizens who entrusted him with that responsibility. Compassion is a virtue, but government policy must rest on law. I believe in legal immigration. America should remain a beacon of hope, welcoming those who follow our laws, contribute to our society, and embrace our values. But illegal entry is not immigration, it is lawlessness. And when we reward it, we punish those who waited in line and followed the rules. Therefore, I would secure the border with firm enforcement while dramatically expanding lawful, orderly immigration tied to our economic needs. America is a shining city on a hill, but a city must have gates. The gates that will open to those who come lawfully and will be closed to those who break the rules. I accept the cost plainly. Some families fleeing hardship will be turned away. Some will suffer because they cannot enter this country. That is a sorrowful reality. But the greater harm would be to dissolve the consent of our own citizens, to ask struggling American communities to absorb consequences they never agreed to bear. Compassion without limits is not compassion. It is the collapse of the system that allows compassion to exist at all. We will help the world best by remaining strong, lawful, and united at home. A nation that loses control of itself cannot remain a beacon to anyone.
Let me be plain. We cannot allow families to die in the desert, and we cannot allow American cities to collapse under unmanaged chaos. Both are failures of government. When I signed the Immigration and Nationality Act, I ended a shameful quota system, but I did not abolish borders. A nation has the right to decide who enters, on what terms, and in what numbers. Without that, consent frays and trust collapses. As president, I will act. Massive federal processing centers at the border, tripled immigration judges, clear, fast asylum decisions. Those who qualify enter legally. Those who don't are returned swiftly and humanely. At the same time, we will expand lawful visas, refugee admissions, and labor programs so America meets demand through law, not disorder. Cities that take newcomers will not be abandoned. Federal money for housing, schools, and job training will follow people. This is the Great Society principle. National problems demand national resources. Now I accept the cost. Families who do not meet statutory standards will be returned. Some will go back to hardship, even danger. That is a burden this decision carries. But I will not impose uncontrolled strain on American cities and workers without their consent. Compassion without order becomes chaos. Order without compassion becomes cruelty.
National sovereignty is not negotiable. A nation that cannot control who enters ceases to be a nation at all. I sent troops to enforce federal law when governors defied it. I will deploy the same authority to establish order at our borders. Deaths in the desert are a tragedy, but they are caused by lawlessness, not law enforcement. When entry is chaotic and unpredictable, smugglers profit and families gamble with their lives. Yet I am no nativist. America was built by those who came hungry and determined. My own ancestors arrived seeking better lives. The answer is not a wall of cruelty, it is a gate with standards. I would triple legal immigration quotas while making the requirements crystal clear. Learn English, work honestly, embrace American institutions without reservation. No man flies his old flag above the stars and stripes in my America. The cost I accept. Those who will not assimilate must be turned away. Cities that declare themselves above federal immigration law will find their federal funds withheld. I broke states' defiance during the coal strike, and I will do so again. We welcome the world's strivers, but they come through the front door, and they come to become Americans.
I would secure the border first and foremost, because a government that cannot control who enters its territory has surrendered the first duty of sovereignty, and no nation survives long once that surrender is made. when American cities cannot house their own citizens yet strain to shelter endless arrivals, when working families watch wages fall because labor markets flood with desperate competition, when schools and hospitals buckle under demand they were never built to meet, I will not sacrifice my citizens' welfare on the altar of abstract compassion. My duty runs to Americans first, second, and last. Those who enter illegally will be returned. Those who die attempting illegal entry have chosen to risk a gamble I never invited them to take. This does not mean indifference to suffering beyond our borders. We will accept refugees through orderly legal processes in numbers our communities can actually absorb. We will address root causes where possible through diplomatic and economic pressure. But we will not pretend that unlimited migration serves anyone, not the Americans whose schools and services collapse, not the migrants who die in deserts chasing false promises, not the rule of law itself, which becomes mockery when millions violate it with impunity. The cost I accept is the death of those who attempt illegal crossing despite clear warning. Their blood is tragedy, but it is not murder. It is the consequence of choices made against explicit law. I will not compound that tragedy by destroying the communities I was elected to protect. We shall preserve the security of the American people first, and from that position of strength, we will extend generosity measured, lawful, and sustainable.
I choose to preserve the consent, security, and lawful authority of the American people. For a nation that cannot control who enters cannot long govern itself. A republic is not a charitable society without boundary. It is a political community formed by consent and sustained by law. I preserve the Union through blood because I understood that without national authority there is only chaos. The same truth applies here. If citizens cannot determine, through their laws, who joins their polity, then government exists by accident rather than consent. I am not without feeling for those who flee violence and deprivation. I have ever favored an open field and a fair chance for all industrious men, but that chance must be sought through the portal of the law. Compassion without capacity is not mercy, it is misrule. When cities cannot house their own, when schools overflow, when communities are transformed without voice or vote, the Union itself begins to fracture. I will therefore secure the border with firmness sufficient to end unlawful entry, admit newcomers through regulated and deliberate channels, and restore the rule of law at the boundary. I accept the cost. Families will be turned back into hardship. Some will remain in danger. Images of suffering will trouble the nation's conscience. But I will not impose disorder upon the citizens whose government I am sworn to preserve. If suffering must be borne, it shall not be borne first by the people of this republic. We must be a nation of laws before we can remain a beacon of hope.